Yo, what is going on, guys? J.Yumeko here, and today we're back with some more Tomboys Need Love Too. Oh! So, last time we left off, God, where do I even begin? Okay. So, to begin with, we got a little sneak peek on Chris in the shower. Got a little bit hot and bothered, you know how it is. Went to school. Turns out that the fucking popular girl, I already forget her name, she got jumped in the bathroom. So we ended up finding her there. She was disheveled, clothes torn, yada yada yada. So we went ahead, got her a new uniform, took her to get her hair cut, and then, you know, kind of left on decent terms. But then she said something that really kind of rubbed me the wrong way. She very clearly showed animosity towards Chris. So my theory at this point is that I think she totally fucking deserved to get jumped, whether the reasons for it were legitimate or not. And I know that sounds bad, but if you just get jumped like that for you know, something that you did or didn't do, and then after all of that, you're like, oh, well, this is my chance to get closer to my hubby, right? That's a little bit fucking psychotic. I'm not gonna lie. So obviously Kai was like, oh, but this is my Pookie Bear. But we're steering him in the right path. We're steering him in the righteous path, which is the path of the tomboy, and that's Chris. So finally, we've very, very obviously been we have gone over each other's feelings very thoroughly, as Chris has, you know, literally undressed herself in front of us. It was about to get freaky, but then our mom kind of you know, stopped all that from happening, unfortunately. You know, classic bad timing incident. But we're gonna go ahead and continue today. We're gonna see what happens with this fucking conniving little bitch, and hopefully we're gonna get some more freaky scenes with Chris. So let's jump right on into it. Yawn. Man, I'm really not up for this today. Are you okay, Kai? You look even more lethargic than usual. I'll be all right. I just need to sleep through class or two, and I'll be back to normal. Cannot speak. All through breakfast, my morning shower, and even now during our walk to school, I couldn't stop yawning. While the visit that Chris had paid me earlier this morning did get my blood pumping, it wasn't enough to erase the fatigue of a bad night's sleep. Lack of sleep, huh? Could it be that you were kept up by the thoughts of the cute girl in the room next to yours? Don't flatter yourself. The only time you keep me awake at night is when we stay up late playing video games. Party pooper, couldn't you just humor me? Lie to you? My dear friend, you know I could never do that. Yeah, right. Well, no matter what you say, I know that I get a rise out of you. Quite literally, in fact. I reflexively covered my crotch with my hands. Exactly right, Kai. But keep it in your pants, okay? No matter how attracted you are to me, you have to show a little bit of discretion. Don't get cocky. It was just a coincidence, alright? Not that I can say the same for you after you pulled this stunt after the stunt you pulled this morning. What? What are you talking about? You know exactly what I'm talking about. Staring at my crotch while I was asleep, taking off your shirt, pressing your breasts against me? If my mother hadn't shown up when she did, I would have... You would have what, Kai? Oh! Immediately drained of the fluster adorning her face a moment ago, Chris suddenly questioned me with a serious look on her face. If your mother hadn't shown up when she did, what would you have done? No, I mean, if she didn't show up, you would have stopped by yourself, and... What if I didn't? Chris stopped walking, as did I. Chris? If I did that again while your mother wasn't home, and I didn't stop by myself, what would you do? Would you overpower me and force me to stop? Would you just stand there, not resisting, and let me do whatever I wanted? Or would you actually return my embrace? Despite the embarrassing nature of the topic at hand, Chris did not seem flustered, nor did she avert her gaze. She questioned me with complete seriousness, as though she might actually plan on repeating the scenario from this morning after receiving my blessing. Chris, Don't tell me that you don't know or that you haven't thought about it. I want an honest answer, Kai. If I were to approach you like I did this morning, and nobody interrupted us, what would you do? Okay, well, I think I've been pretty clear about which way I'm taking this story, so we're gonna go on the offensive, obviously. As difficult as I found it to imagine myself taking the lead, there's only so much a guy can take. With Chris half naked, pressing her body against mine, and nobody around to interrupt us, even I might have the courage to take things to the next level. Chris, the truth is, I don't know what I would do in that kind of situation. In all honesty, I'm still in shock that the scene from this morning happened at all. With that being the case, I have to warn you that if you tried that again, I might not be able to control myself. Control yourself? What do you mean, Kai? You know what I'm trying to say. Even I have my limits, Chris, and with you pressing your bare chest against me, I think it's safe to say that we'd soon discover what those limits are. So, for your own safety, please don't do that again. If you did, I can't say with certainty that I wouldn't push you down myself. And, after that, I might. Kai, what are you even saying? You push me down? As if. I tensed up and looked away as Chris rejected my answer. Even if I myself found it difficult to imagine me doing such a thing, it still felt bad to be laughed at when I tried to give a serious response. Wait, let's see. I want to see what some of these other options might have led to. What if we said we'd let her have her way? Well, there probably existed some unspoken rule about the male taking charge in such a situation. I wasn't about to deceive myself. Chris, who had already proven herself to be far more assertive and dominant than me, would remain firmly in control, and I wouldn't resist in the slightest. In fact, as someone who had recently begun to question his own feelings towards his best friend, but feared rejection, having Chris take control would be like a dream come true. Whoa, okay, buddy. I think that your second guess was right. Even if this morning were to be repeated, I'd probably just stand there, completely useless and unable or unwilling to do anything. Heh, I see. Hearing my answer, Chris began to smile. Sorry. Don't apologize. I expected as much myself. Though to be honest, I am surprised to hear you admit it. It's not something I'm proud of, but you did ask me seriously for an honest answer. I figured I owed you that much. I'm glad you feel that way, Kai. It may not be cool to be submissive, but as I'm sure you know by now, you don't need to put on airs around me. I already know your character through and through. So just tell me the truth or I'll beat it out of you. Chris raised her fist with a smile on her face. I don't doubt it. But I'm not a fighter, so I guess I'll settle with telling the truth. Wuss. That is the correct decision, though. Embrace your true nature and submit to me. As you command, O benevolent one. I bowed my head slightly, following Chris's lead. Very good. You'll make a fine subject yet. Now then, while you're being so honest with me, tell me, how often do you masturbate? Whoa! Okay! That's out of fucking left field, isn't it? Come again? You heard me. Answer the question, Kai. No, don't you think that's a bit... Answer! Chris shouted louder, drawing the attention of students on the other side of the road. I looked around nervously, praying that no one had heard what we were discussing. Chris, keep your voice down. I'll lower my voice once you answer my question. With a red face and a perverse expression, Chris gave off a vibe similar to when she approached me in my room earlier. This time, however, Chris was being far more forceful, and intended to use the pretense of our playful scenario to have her way. Excited, liberated from her usual character, and just a little bit aroused, Chris wasn't going to give up without a fight. 3 days. Huh? What's that? Speak up, Kai. 3 days. On average, once every 3 days. Ah, I see. Once every 3 days. Initially pleased to hear my response, it didn't take long for Chris's eyes to open wide in shock.
Every 3 days? No, that can't be. It's definitely more than that, right?
Chris?
It has to be a lie. The number can't possibly be that low. If that were true, then for me to do it more than 3 times that much...
Hello, Earth to Chris?
Huh?
Chris? Wait, okay, hold up. Let's do the math real quick. So he does it once every 3 days, and she says she does it 3 times as much. So she does it, what, once every day? Damn, she freaky.
Kai, you scared me.
I did?
Yes, every 3 days. Wow, that's a lot, isn't it? Do all boys do it that often, or are you just especially devious?
How should I know? Please, can we just drop it? I answered your question already.
Yes, I suppose you did. Alright, enough dallying. Let's keep going. But no holding hands, alright? I know where your hands have been.
Like we ever do that. Red in the face, Chris smirked playfully as the two of us continued walking to school. I followed close behind, mentally exhausted by the far-fetched conversation we just had. Honestly, who asks those kinds of questions? I always kind of thought that Chris wasn't interested in that stuff, since she's never dated anyone before, or even talked about liking someone. But I guess I was wrong. Rather, going by the last few days, Chris might actually be a closet pervert. Yeah, you think? The moment we arrived in class, my lively morning with Chris came to a screeching halt. Similar to yesterday, a number of students were absent. Not as many, but still enough to raise questions. And of course, among those missing from the classroom was Sophie. Although Chris's presence and actions helped to distract me for a while, I can no longer pretend that yesterday didn't happen. What I saw, what I was told, what I did, it was all bound to resurface.
2 days in a row. I'd like to think that nothing's going on, but maybe you're right, Kai. This does seem a little odd. Though I still think your female uprising theory might be a little off.
Yeah. I answered half-heartedly as I glanced around the classroom. On closer inspection, the girls who arrived to class late yesterday were present. However, those who skipped the full day were absent. Were they being questioned regarding their truancy? Or had they perhaps been suspended after what happened to Sophie? Given what Sophie said about it only being a matter of time before they published those photos of her, there was a very good chance that their punishment would involve suspension, if not something more extreme.
Oh, cheer up, Kai. Even if something is going on, it has nothing to do with us, right?
I suppose. I knew that Chris was only trying to cheer me up, and in a way I was relieved by her optimism. But after what happened yesterday, I couldn't brush this off as someone else's problem so easily. I had already inserted myself into the situation. Even if it was only after the conflict died down, I made a point of assisting Sophie, and wound up skipping class with her. For better or for worse, I was involved.
Jeez, what's with you, Kai? Ever since we got to class, all you've done is mumble dejectedly. I know school is boring, but it's not worth getting depressed over. How about we play a game to kill time? Or maybe we... Whoa, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Unbelievable. She actually showed up.
Before Chris could finish speaking, our classmates all suddenly began to whisper amongst themselves. Chris stopped mid-sentence and turned around, facing the direction in which everybody else seemed to be looking. And the moment she did, Chris too widened her eyes in shock.
No way. Are you kidding me? Good morning, everyone. I'm not too late, am I?
With a smile on her face and her usual demeanor having returned in full force, Sophie checked the clock on the back wall to make sure that she still had some time left before class began. But rather than her tardiness, what caught the attention of my classmates was something far harder to miss. Sophie's new hairstyle, almost identical to that of a certain tomboy.
Good morning. Sophie, your hair is... Oh, this? I was just thinking that it was about time to change my style. And short hair is so much easier to manage, you know? Taking care of long hair is far too time-consuming. What do you think? Do you like it?
Well, practicality aside, it's kind of... Hearing Sophie ask that question, more than a few of my classmates looked in Chris's direction. It would seem that I wasn't the only one who found the similarity uncanny. Even if Chris herself seemed fixated on Sophie's hair,
undoubtedly conscious of her own appearance. Oh, even Chris. Mm-hmm. Oh, I see. I didn't notice it before, but it seems like someone else had the same idea as me. I guess great minds do think alike, don't they? After briefly glancing at Chris, Sophie glazed over the observation without giving it any further thought. Whether she had modeled her look on Chris, or it was simply a coincidence, the topic was not one Sophie wished to discuss any further. Huh, I thought I was late, but where is everyone? Did something happen? Feigning ignorance, Sophie probed our classmates for information. Haven't you heard? Most of the girls in our class got suspended. Oh, they did? What did they do? One of the girls who Sophie questioned looked away. Even if they weren't directly involved in what happened to Sophie, they no doubt heard from others what was in store for her. Who knows? Why don't you ask your father? I'm sure he'd tell you. Oh, come on now. Don't be silly. You know he can't tell me things like that. That would be a breach of privacy, you know? Not to mention an abuse of power. Right. The girl whom Sophie was addressing averted her gaze nervously. Despite her friendly tone and bright smile, it seemed that Sophie exuded a strong pressure on the girls in front of her. Sheesh, a third of the class is absent, and Sophie just has to be one of the few girls here. And who does she think she's fooling anyway? She totally stole my look. Now, you should be flattered. Yeah, right. I don't want people mistaking me for her. Oh, Christine, you say the funniest things. Suddenly right beside us, Sophie caused Chris and I to both jump back in surprise. Sophie, what are you... Relax, you needn't be so concerned about me, especially when it comes to the similarities in our appearance. Even if our hairstyles are the same, there's no way anybody would mix the two of us up. A devious smirk appeared on Sophie's face as she lowered her gaze to Chris's chest. Thank goodness for that. It would seem that those cow tits of yours finally serve a purpose after all. What did you say to me? Oh, nothing. I was just thinking out loud. Say, Kai, do you know how long it takes large breasts to sag? If sagging in old age is the price to pay for a lifetime of elegance, so be it. I'd much rather endure minor discomfort in my golden years than spend my entire life being mistaken for a boy. You fat piece of... Girls, please, enough bickering. Even if you argue about this, it's not like it's gonna change anything. Huh. As you say. Sophie and Chris turned away from one another, putting a quick end to their unnecessary squabble. Forget it. Chris is the one I wanted to speak to anyway. I'm sorry I couldn't do this before, but here. Sophie pulled roughly $30 out of her pocket and handed it to me. Money? Kai, what is this? Mentally cursing Sophie for doing this in front of Chris, I desperately tried to think of a feasible excuse. If you must know, Kai. Must know, Kai and I skipped class together in order to go shopping. Isn't that right, Kai? Damn it, Sophie, don't tell her that. Kai, is that true? Is that where you went yesterday? Of course it's true. Why would I lie about that? Shut up, I'm not asking you. Kai, did you or did you not skip class yesterday to go shopping with Sophie? This fucking bitch. Oh my god, this bitch. I forget if we had an option to help her, but if we did, I very, very heavily regret doing that. Oh my god. Okay. Well, see, I fucking called this shit. I called it. I knew for a fact this was going to come back around to bite us in the fucking ass. Okay. Back up Sophie's story. Tell Chris that Sophie's lying, or make up a lie based on the truth. So here, let's break down the facade of these actions, and let's just give it straight as it is, right? So basically up here we have basically we have this, right? Tell Chris that we still are obsessed with Sophie even despite all the shit that just happened between us and Chris. Fucking straight up lie about what is going on with Sophie, which is again going to be something that is going to come back and bite us in the ass.
or lie to her, but not really, and kind of try and balance the situation. Oh my god. Okay, so here's my thoughts on it. I'm not picking the first one. I am not picking the first one. Like, oh, fuck me, dude. If we pick the first one, yes, we're being truthful. But Chris is totally going to take that the wrong way. If we lie and say that, or if we say that we weren't with Sophie yesterday, well, fuck, dude, because that technically is the truth. We didn't go shopping with her. We helped her. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. Or we can make up a lie based on the truth. Well, we can go back and forth, right? Let's just see what he says about the lie. Well, there is some truth to what Sophie's saying, but it's not really what happened. Oh, do go on. Chris glared at me angrily, clearly not happy to hear that there was a basis for Sophie's claims. You see, Chris, I met Sophie at school yesterday after, something happened. She got her hair messed up in an unfortunate incident. It was all messy and chopped up, like out of a horror movie or something. A horror movie? Was it really that bad? Are you being serious, Kai? Yes, I'm being serious. She was a complete mess. So I loaned Sophie the money for a haircut, and then we went our separate ways. We did not go shopping. And since you saw me return to class soon after that, we obviously didn't spend any time together. Chris weighed up my story against the information at hand. Surely enough, the sum of money that was given to me roughly matched the cost of a haircut, and given Sophie's image change, she clearly did get a haircut. Furthermore, I only missed one class. There was no way I had enough time to go shopping. With that being the case, the evidence was clearly in my favor. Yeah, I suppose that sounds feasible. Is what Kai said true, Sophie? Yes, it's true. We didn't go shopping. Kai loaned me money yesterday to get a haircut and we parted ways. I see. Chris breathed a sigh of relief upon receiving confirmation of my innocence. But as the tension escaped from Chris's body, it seemed as though Sophie was not bounced back so quickly. I suppose it's time that I excuse myself. I'll speak to you later, Kai. Oh, sure. With no joy in her face, Sophie left Chris and I alone. She headed straight to her desk and began to pull out materials needed for our first class, then sat alone in silence. About time she left. Why is it hurting to know that when they can't, need to know that they can't hide the truth forever? Yeah, you might be right about that. Feeling guilty about selling Sophie out, and also for lying to Chris, I too descended into silence. Well, we didn't lie though. What the fuck? We did not lie. He literally just straight up told the truth. She did get into an incident that fucked up her hair. We did give her money to get a haircut, and we did immediately part ways afterwards, and we came back to class. That is not a lie. That is straight up telling the fucking truth. We're just leaving out the part about her getting jumped in the bathroom. That is literally all that's fucking happened. Oh my god. Okay, well, I'm probably gonna go with this path, but just out of pure curiosity, I do want to go and check and see what the other option would have done. Chris, of course I didn't go shopping with Sophie. I wasn't gone anywhere near long enough for that to be true, was I? And of all the things I could do while skipping class, why would I go shopping? Sophie is just trying to get under your skin. Is that true, Sophie? When you put it like that, I can't really deny it. I should have known. You're just trying to create drama where there isn't any, aren't you? No, You come over here, insult me, throw money at Kai, then make up a story about the two of you going out together. All you want to do is cause conflict and laugh at the aftermath, am I right? Fine. If that's the way you see it, then that must be it. In response to Chris's aggressive pursuit of the truth, Sophie gave in and responded in turn. I knew it. You're always causing problems where there are none, trying to create rifts between people. Now you're cozying up to Kai, even going so far as to make yourself look like me. Also, you can try to separate us. You really messed up, you know that? So I've heard. Without even trying to defend herself, Sophie simply took in everything that Chris said. Going by what she told me yesterday,
Sophie was no doubt tired of trying to tell people that they were wrong about her, and instead decided to let them say their piece without resisting. Kai, I'll talk to you later. Bye. Her voice laced with agitation, or perhaps disappointment, Sophie bid me farewell. About time. Just the other day, she caused Ellie to break up with her boyfriend, and now Sophie's already on the prowl. But we'll show her. She won't get between us so easily, right, Kai? Kai? Chris's words fell on deaf ears as I thought everything over that had just happened. If I were to believe what Sophie told me, then Chris, just like everyone else, bore an unfounded grudge against Sophie, fueled by baseless rumors. On the other hand, just as Chris said, Sophie cut her hair shorter than she needed to, purposely making herself look like Chris. She could have gone with any style she wanted, but she purposefully chose to emulate Chris's. Then, when she was caught out, Sophie laughed it off and immediately started bickering with Chris. In doing so, Sophie even lied about what we were doing yesterday. She put words in my mouth and tried to make me out to be her accomplice. No matter what side was right, Sophie and Chris were getting along as poorly as ever. And in getting closer to Sophie, I unintentionally invited conflict in all of our lives. Depending on what I did from here on, and how carefully I approached these events in the future, things could easily get out of hand. Huh. Honestly, I mean, I don't really have any specific feelings for either of these paths. Okay, so from what we've just seen, it seems as though telling Chris that Sophie's lying straight up just further ignites the flame of conflict between these two. We don't know why the fuck these two are fighting in the first place, but we do know that they fucking hate each other's guts. So, and who knows, maybe it's just as simple as them both liking us. Maybe that's all it is. But I will say this, I feel like making up the lie kind of ends things on a more somber note. Because telling Chris that Sophie's lying gets Chris pissed off, gets Sophie pissed off, and gets us kind of distanced from both of them. And again, I imagine Chris will probably take our silence on her ranting. I mean, and I'm trying to put this into words, but I feel like us sitting there and kind of being silent while Chris is talking about all this puts into our own minds that, oh, well, Chris is blindly, giving into the rumors about Sophie. So in our own eyes, it puts Chris in a bad light while also putting Sophie in a bad light. So it's just, I feel like it's actually the worst of both worlds. While making up a lie based on the truth does not do that. Sure, it does leave Sophie dejected and kind of sad. It also doesn't push any kind of conflict or plant any negative seeds in our own head about either of these girls. So I think I'm going to go with this one, like I said earlier. I just feel like it's the best move to go with here. Okay. Yada, yada, yada. Silence. Alright. The day had only just begun, and I'd already been on an emotional roller coaster. From nightmares to skinship to discord in the classroom. If the morning thus far was any indicator of what was yet to come, I might just wind up skipping class once more. Once our teacher arrived, the tension in the classroom naturally dissipated. Our collective focus was drawn to the lesson at hand, rather than our classmates' changes in style, and we were given no leeway to chat. Even so, that didn't stop the stray comment here and there, nor did it put an end to the sideways glances directed at the new Sophie. Looking at Sophie carefully from behind, I still can't reach any other conclusion than she knowingly modeled her hairstyle after Chris's. But why? Those two have never gotten along, and I certainly can't see them becoming friends anytime soon. Especially now. Given Sophie's accusations yesterday, I would think that modeling her hairstyle after Chris's would be the last thing she'd want to do. Could this be some kind of weird kind of revenge? Or Or has Sophie perhaps realized that Chris wasn't present after all? Whatever the case, the tension between these two doesn't seem like it'll be eased anytime soon. So if I'm going to befriend Sophie, I need to play it safe. Oh, this fucking idiot. Oh, fuck me. Okay, well now I don't want to go with this fucking path because this goddamn moron is sitting here like, oh, what if I want to befriend Sophie? Why do we want to befriend Sophie in the first place, bro? Why do we want to befriend her? She's a fucking evil bitch, man. Whatever, we'll just go with this and see what happens. Once again, reaffirming my own view on what was going on, I returned my gaze to the front of the room just as class ended. To my relief, our teacher left the classroom without assigning us any homework, and her prompt departure gave us the freedom to express our discontent once more. How is it still only morning? Just kill me now and get it over with. Class wasn't that bad, was it? At least we didn't get any homework. That isn't what I'm worried about. Huh? The moment that Chris finished speaking, I noticed footsteps growing closer to us, and when I raised my head, surely enough, the true source of Chris's chagrin made itself obvious. To think that the first lesson for the day has already ended. Time sure flies when you're having fun, doesn't it, Kai? Yeah, I guess. Of course, breaks are important too. We mustn't get too bogged down in our studies. Besides, if we didn't take the occasional break, we wouldn't be able to chat like this, would we? Yeah, that's right. You really don't need to sell me on the concept of taking a break, though. That's the one part of school I have gotten pretty good on grasping. You don't say. I do hope that you're treating your other duties as a student with as much prudence as your breaks, though. As students, we must attend class diligently and spend our time increasing our knowledge in preparation for what lies beyond. That's rich coming from the girl who skipped class yesterday. Perhaps sick of being ignored, Chris chimed in just as Sophie's lecture began to gain traction. That was an isolated incident, and not something to be emulated. Yeah, right. Earlier you were gleefully bragging about how you skipped class to go shopping, and now you're saying it's a bad thing? You're such a hypocrite. Sophie's calm demeanor disappeared in no time at all as Chris began to speak to her. In spite of Sophie's usually cheerful and pleasant personality, it seemed that Chris possessed the ability to easily get under Sophie's skin, and to call her out on what I could not. You're just jealous that I was spending time with Kai without your knowledge. What? Don't be absurd. Kai and I already spent plenty of time together. Why would I care if he took pity on you and wasted an hour of his time? Took pity on me? Wasted his time? Christine, don't you think you're being awfully rude? I understand that jealousy makes people do and say irrational things, but please try to control yourself. I told you, I'm not jealous. Kai and I don't even have that kind of relationship. Oh, is that so? In that case, you would have no reason to object if I were to ask Kai out on a date then, would you? What? Date? Chris exclaimed loudly enough for the entire class to hear her, but at that point in time I paid her surprise no mind, because even more so than Chris, I was in complete shock. That's right. That's what two people do when they're fond of one another, isn't it? It's embarrassing to say, but I've actually had my eye on Kai for a while now, and I'd like to think that he feels the same way. So Kai, if you don't already have plans on Saturday, would you like to spend some time with me? Frozen in place, unable to believe what I was hearing, I stared blankly at Sophie with my mouth wide open. While I was happy that Sophie started to speak to me this morning, I never imagined that yesterday's events would so quickly lead to a situation like this. Moreover, if what she said was true, then my longing for her was not one-sided. Unbelievably, she too watched over me from across the classroom, wishing for the two of us to grow closer. It all seemed too good to be true. If you're sure that you want to with me, then... He can't! Kai can't go on a date with you! Chris? Before I could answer, Chris suddenly interrupted. With a look of panic on her face and clear distress in her voice, she desperately cut me off. Oh, is that so? And why is that, Christine? I thought you said your relationship wasn't like that. It isn't, but... Then stay out of it. Shutting down Chris's interference, Sophie directed her gaze towards me once more. Please, Kai, you don't have to answer immediately, but do give it some thought. I know we haven't spoken much, and I do apologize for that, but if possible, I would like to take this opportunity to get to know you better. If you feel the same way, please do me the honor of escorting me this weekend.
I shifted my gaze back and forth between Chris and Sophie, trying to make sense of what was happening. As though playing out a fantasy I'd seen many times before, Sophie asked me out on a date. With red cheeks, Sophie shyly admitted to liking me. She said that she wanted to get to know me better, that our feelings were mutual, and I couldn't be happier. However,
Kai.
Unlike my fantasies, in which I'd completely accept Sophie's invitation without consequence or consideration for others, this time around, Chris was right beside me. Just looking at her face, I could tell that Chris wanted me to refuse Sophie's invitation. Chris's objection, whether it stemmed from something as simple as her loathing of Sophie, or perhaps from the feelings Chris expressed for me this morning, was not something I could ignore. I didn't want to hurt Chris. Her happiness mattered to me greatly. Even if her apparent fondness for me was all in my head, the last thing I wanted to do was make her sad. But that didn't mean the answer would come to me easily. Denying the friendship of Sophie, who just yesterday was attacked by her closest companions, would be akin to abandoning her at her most vulnerable. On the other hand, accepting Sophie's invitation would mean hurting Chris, my best friend, who just this morning gave me reason to think there might be something more to our relationship. In the end, what it all came down to was who I trusted more. And after listening to Sophie's accusations yesterday, trying to make me think the worst of my best friend, my answer was obvious. No matter what kind of happy future I fantasized about with Sophie, it was all meaningless if it meant casting Chris aside. A fleeting crush could not stand against a decade of friendship. Even if I pined for Sophie, my feelings for Chris, unclear though they may be, were far stronger. And so, more than ever, my body and soul pulled me towards the one person who I could never bring myself to abandon. Sophie, thank you for the invitation. It means a lot to me that you'd invite a guy like me out and want to get to know you better too. And I want to get to know you better too. But the thing is, I was planning on asking Chris out this weekend. Let's go! Holy shit, this motherfucker finally got his shit together! Oh my god. Tears of joy running down my face, streaming down my face. Oh my god, it is about fucking time that this guy stopped bouncing back and forth between these two and made up his fucking mind. I'm so happy. I'm so happy that my decisions fucking mattered. You know what? I will say this. That is quite fucking rare for games like this. That is quite rare for games like this. You wouldn't think it, but that actually, my choices mattered. And god damn it, does that just make me fucking happy. Hearing my answer, Chris screamed Chris in surprise. Chris screamed in surprise. You mean like me and you together on a date? I didn't necessarily mean it like that, but yeah, that's right. Be it as friends, boyfriend and girlfriend, or something else entirely, my time with Chris was always enjoyable. So even if I was mistaken about Chris's feelings towards me, or about mine for her, I would never regret choosing to spend the weekend with her. I wasn't planning on asking you like this, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but of course I'll go. Oh gosh, but this is so sudden. My goody clothes are at my house, and it would ruin the surprise and the mood if we walked together from Kai's house. Maybe I should have played it cool and given it some thought before answering. Chris? No, wait. My parents get back tomorrow night, so it should be fine. I'll go home tomorrow, spend the night at my house, pick something to wear, and... Okay, Saturday morning we'll meet in front of the... Unable to control her excitement, Chris took far longer than usual to realize just how loudly she was talking. By this point, every set of eyes in the classroom was fixed on her, and everybody knew of her plans for the weekend. We'll talk tonight. Completely red in the face, and not just from embarrassment, Chris quietly walked towards the classroom door. Chris? Where are you going? Class will be starting soon. Speaking to Chris's receding back, I watched nervously as her figure disappeared from my sight. Oh well, she probably just needs a minute to cool her head. With Chris no longer visible, I pulled my ways away from the door, only to suddenly remember that Chris was not the only person to whom I was speaking. Oh,
Sophie, Don't bother. Responding in a harsh tone, Sophie looked down at the floor as she spoke. I already knew the two if you were like that. Even if you weren't already dating, anybody could see that it was only a matter of time. I'm sorry for trying to butt in. Betraying the self-deprecation in her words, Sophie's voice contained clear hostility as she hurried away from my desk and returned to her seat. She immediately slumped her shoulders, placing her forehead on the desk and wrapping her arms around her sides of her head, so nobody could see her expression. Whether she felt disappointed by my rejection, or betrayed that I would take Chris's side after hearing the claims Sophie made about her, Sophie was clearly done talking. For the time being, all I could do was watch her trembling figure and wait for Chris to return. Hey, Kai. Yeah? Can you believe it? We're going on a real date. You and me, boyfriend and girlfriend. Just saying it makes my heart pound like crazy. Hey, on a scale of 1 to I'm about to wet my pants, how nervous were you when you asked me out? What kind of grading scale is that? And I wasn't that nervous. Though I probably would have been if I intended it to be a date from the beginning. You were so cute, trying to act all calm and mature while asking me out in front of everyone. It's not like it was supposed to be in front of everyone. You just attracted too much attention when you started screaming out date like a maniac. Well, excuse me for being excited. Would you rather have me brush it off like it was nothing? I mean, that's what Sophie would have done. Don't say that. You saw how nervous Sophie was when she asked me out. I wouldn't be too sure about that. As Sophie's name came up, I felt a sense of unease begin to bog me down. Kai, are you alright? Yeah, I'm okay. Sorry, I was just thinking about Sophie. You're regretting choosing me over her? No, of course not. I just feel guilty about turning her down, that's all. After you left the classroom, Sophie just kept her head on her desk, buried her face in her arms, and didn't surface until the next lesson started. I knew from the beginning that no matter what answer I gave, someone would get hurt, but that didn't make it any easier to endure. All through class, I couldn't help but wonder if I'd turned her down without involving Chris. Maybe I could have delayed my answer until later, or faked a stomachache. And now it was too late for any of that. And while I was happy with one part of the result, Sophie's despondent expression was one I wouldn't soon forget. Oh, I see. I didn't notice that. To be honest, I wasn't paying any attention to Sophie at all after that. I didn't even think about how she must have taken it. And not that I feel bad about it, though. Despite the empathy in her voice a moment ago, Chris quickly changed her tune and wore a bright smile once more. Really? I still can't believe you asked me out on a date, and in the middle of class like that. You've got more guts than I thought, Kai. Yeah, I guess you're right. To be honest, I kind of surprised myself. Though Chris was the first one who actually called it a date, not me. So, what do you think we should do first? I kind of want to go home and start messaging all my friends, but I told most of them at school already. Oh, and should I call my parents? Or would it be better to wait until they get home and tell them together? I smiled nervously as Chris's enthusiasm started to climb. Chris, I get that you're excited, but I think you should dial it down. We haven't even gone anywhere or done anything yet. Do you really think announcing to your parents that we're a couple is the first thing we should be doing? A couple? Just hearing you say it makes me all giddy. Although I hadn't thought about it while I was speaking, I did find it kind of odd how naturally I referred to us as a couple. Maybe I'm more ready for this than I thought. I didn't intend for this, and it just kind of happened. But now that it has, I think I might actually be happy about this. But you do have a point. Are we boyfriend and girlfriend yet? Or is it not official until we've actually gone on a date? We've gone out together plenty of times in the past anyway, so do those outings count? Or does the relationship get wiped clean the second it changes? You're overthinking this. No, you're underthinking this. Come on, Kai, work with me here. Does the relationship start fresh when it changes, or does the past also shape your new relationship? It all adds up, in my opinion. Obviously, it starts a new leg in your relationship with that person. So technically, your relationship does change, but I mean, the fact that we're boyfriend and girlfriend at this point doesn't change the fact that we're also best friends.
right? And honestly, in my humble opinion, I think that a relationship where you can call each other, where not only do you love each other, but you're also best friends, I think that's peak right there. Couple goals. Alright, it all adds up. I don't think a couple should be bagged down by their past forever, but it's not like you can just pretend that the past didn't happen. I mean, if a couple didn't have a history together, they wouldn't be dating in the first place, right? It's only because two people have spent so much time together that they can reach that stage. Without that build-up, what's the point? That's a pretty good argument. And I certainly do agree that people should have a good relationship before they become a couple. But even so, I don't want to think that it's a requirement. Of course, that's probably just because I'm a sucker for love at first sight stories. So, what's the verdict? Are we a couple yet, or do I still have another day of freedom left? Dunno. Oh, come on. I started in disbelief as Chris shrugged off the topic she was so fixated on a moment ago. Whatever. It's not like I do anything different either way. I mean, as long as we still act the same at home, it really shouldn't make any difference, should it? Right. I'd forgotten about that. I was thinking about whether to call my own parents, but I completely forgot about yours. Okay, as soon as we get home, let's tell your mom everything. No, wait! Before I could stop her, Chris ran towards my house eagerly, closing the final stretch in a heartbeat as our houses came into view. Holy crap, I'm out of shape. Breathing hard as I failed to keep up, I reached my house much later than Chris. While Chris would sometimes spend her time freely playing sports with her friends in other classes, I had no such other hobby. I lived a very sedentary lifestyle. Apart from walking to and from school, I indulged in little to no exercise. Suffice to say, there was no way I could compete with Chris in terms of fitness. Excuse me. Damn. Am I too late? Still panting, I straightened my back and ran into the next room. Inside, I saw my mother and Chris, who both turned towards me with joyful looks on their faces. Kai, there you are! You're so slow, I was just about to go on without you. Go on? Does that mean I made it in time after all? Only just. So, do you want to tell your mother, or should we do it together? Not too late after all. Listen, Chris, before that I was thinking we should... Oh, you don't need to wait for Kai. He'll dally around for hours before spitting it out. Come on, don't keep me in suspense any longer. Out with it already. I hurriedly tried to stop Chris before we could pass the point of no return, only to have my feeble attempt at resistance torn down immediately. Oh, Mother, you're so impatient. Alright then, I'll tell you myself. Kai and I are... We're going to be going out for a while on Saturday, so plan accordingly, okay? I desperately interrupted Chris, causing her obvious displeasure. Although I was the one who invited Chris out, and I spoke about us being a couple in a surprisingly natural fashion, I felt far too uneasy about spreading Fuck me, I can't speak. I felt far too uneasy to be spreading news of our hours-old relationship already. Oh? Is that all? Honestly, Chris, you had me thinking that something amazing had happened. My bad. I suppose that means I won't need to cook lunch on Saturday. Maybe I should go out too. It feels like I don't get out much nowadays. Mumbling to herself, my mother walked into the next room while thinking deeply about her plans for the weekend. I'm sorry. Without waiting for Chris to address me, I instinctively apologized. Jerk. Why did you have to do that? You made it sound so boring. And the way you put it, your mother didn't even realize what I was trying to say. I know. That was kind of the idea. Do you not want your mother to know? I know it's a bit sudden, but personally I think she'd be happy to know. Even if it was largely in jest, she's always been supportive of the two of us becoming a couple. I think she's been wanting this almost as much as I have. But if you don't want to tell her yet, I won't force you. No, it's not like I want to keep our relationship a secret or anything, and I have no intention of hiding it from my mother. It's just, like you said before, we haven't even gone out yet. I only asked you out a few hours ago. Don't you think it's a little hasty to be calling ourselves a couple already? Yeah, I guess. But you know... A red tinge appeared on Chris's face, alerting me to the smile that was about to surface.
Even if I'm being hasty, I'm just so excited. I know it's irrational to get so happy over something like this, but I've waited for so long, and now it's finally happened. I just want to tell everyone. I guess maybe I've been in this relationship a lot longer than you have, inside my head at least.
Chris. Hearing how Chris felt, my doubts were immediately cleared away. Whether we were being hasty, getting excited over nothing, or just acting like hormonal teenagers, there's no reason not to be enthusiastic. Even if we looked like excitable idiots in the eyes of others, as long as we were happy, that was all that mattered. Alright, have it your way. Let's tell my mother the good news.
Really? It's okay?
Of course. You're not the only one who's excited about all this, you know? But maybe we should wait until tomorrow morning? She might think it's inappropriate for us to sleep in the same house now that we're... Chris?
Yeah! You're kidding! It's true, he asked me out in the middle of the class, in front of everyone.
The moment I gave Chris my approval, she ran into the next room and told my mother everything. I immediately heard an unnaturally high-pitched scream of delight from my mother, who proceeded to engage Chris in a one-on-one match of enthusiasm. Hearing that, I can only sigh in resignation as the two of them expressed enough joy for the three of us. Even as one of the involved parties, and the one who started all this, it somehow felt like I was the least enthusiastic person of all. Was it because the reality of the situation hadn't set in? Was it simply that I couldn't compare to the excitable pair in the next room? Or was I unconsciously feeling guilty about hurting Sophie to get to this stage? Whatever the case, tonight was going to be interesting to say the least. Ooh, should I stop it here? I feel like it's about to get really juicy. Okay, I think I'm going to stop it here. I think we've had enough excitability for now. Today's been definitely a shorter episode, so apologies for that. But hey, next episode you do get to look forward to what I can almost guarantee you that there's going to be some spicy stuff going on at the start of next episode. So we can look forward to that. But oh man. Okay, so I do feel like the path that I chose, I feel like ultimately is the best. I get, because like I said, we're kind of playing both sides here. So on one hand, the other option I feel like honestly might have delayed this whole interaction more. Maybe it might not have, but at the very least, I still feel like it would have planted bad thoughts in our head about Chris. And we would have thought of her as, oh, well, she's just another girl who doesn't understand Sophie. She doesn't get Sophie. She judges and criticizes her unfairly. That's who Chris is. And I don't want that to happen. So, obviously, the only trade-off with this option is that now we're feeling guilty about having turned Sophie down. Because we didn't just cut off the thing there. But I am also it does kind of worry me because he mentioned that there's hostility in Sophie's voice. Sophie may or may not come back up in this story at all. That may have been the turning point and we may have made our decision. But if Sophie does turn up again, it's either going to be with very open, aggressive hostility, or it's going to be with actually trying to get, actually trying to do the things she was accused of doing and get between our relationship, which she's already tried to do. So that's gonna be it for this time. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, let me sure leave a like on the video and tell me in the comment section below what you'd like to see me play next. If you enjoyed this video or any other videos or series on my channel, then I highly recommend that you hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you'll be notified when a new one of those videos comes out. Anyways, that's it from me, and I'll see you in the next one.